How's it going? My name's Instructor Shane. I just wanted to take a minute and talk about what makes a good holster and what doesn't. There's a lot of things on the market out there. Amazon, Walmart, you name it, you can find holsters pretty much anywhere online. But what actually makes a good one, especially now that we're looking at concealed carrying? I have 3 to 4 requirements depending on what kind of firearm I'm using and what position I'm carrying. Am I carrying appendix? Am I carrying 3 o'clock? Am I carrying 4 o'clock? There's pros and cons to each position, and I'll actually be covering that in a different video. So the first thing we want to talk is retention. So I'll ensure my Glock is clear here. So what retention is our firearm actually being retained within a holster. So here's my holster for my Glock. Notice when I go to holster it, you're gonna hear a click where the firearm is actually being retained by the holster. That audible click means it's now retained inside that firearm. And I can prove this by turning my firearm upside down and shaking it, and it just doesn't come flopping out. Why is this important? As CCW holders, you know, we're doing our daily lives while concealed carrying a firearm. The last thing we want is having to run after a child or loved one or something like that. And oops, my gun just kind of comes out and ends up on the ground. Another one we don't want is I'm getting in and out of my car and having that firearm come up out of the holster while I'm moving, or using the restroom. The big thing is there's quality holsters on the market, and hey, what do we look for? So that retention's going to be a good one. The second one is something hard that's going to completely protect the trigger guard. Modern day firearms, how they end up shooting is you have to press the trigger. They go through rigorous testing, drop testing, all these things. So the big thing is, we can see here on my Glock, it's got hard Kydex all around the trigger guard, so that trigger cannot be accessed. It's an absolute 100% requirement for striker fire pistols, anything without an actual physical mechanical safety. Even my shield, I'll show you here. My shield here has a mechanical safety. We'll ensure it's unloaded. So the mechanical safety, we'll press it up for on, press it down, the fire safety's off. Even with my shield, with mechanical safety, I still tend to run a hard Kydex holster, right? We can hear that click. I have that active retention where it's not going anywhere, and that trigger guard's completely protected. Now, if I end up running a firearm with mechanical safety, could I possibly get away from something that completely protects the trigger guard, such as hard Kydex? I think the answer is yes. You know, you have a mechanical safety. We just have to kind of get through our thought process on reholstering and things like that. On the market, you're going to see these. This happens to be a Blackhawk little nylon flimsy thing. I watched a video the other day of someone shooting themselves canoe hole right through the butt cheek using one of these. I mean, I think these are absolutely hot, flaming dumpster fire garbage, because the thing is, there's nothing in there that's protecting that trigger. That's a bad example. We'll use my SIG here, ensure it's unloaded. So from here, there's nothing protecting that trigger guard. Even that soft material stuff can still get in there and press that trigger. Now, with a SIG, with certain different firearms, you're running double action, single action. Do you have to have hard Kydex or something like that protecting the trigger? The answer is no, you don't, but it is the best option. You know, because it is a double action gun, that first trigger pull is heavier than single action, and because it doesn't have a mechanical safety, we can see here the trigger guard isn't properly protected, but it still takes about 6 to 8 pounds to press that trigger. You know, and something like that, you have to really mean or something gets in there and really presses it hard. Now, I would never use anything like that running single action, because then it's pretty, I don't want to call it a hair trigger, but it's about 2 to 3 pounds of trigger pull to get that to go off. And that's kind of the last thing we want. The big thing running like soft holsters, they tend to collapse after you draw them out from your waistband. Right here, this is a Bianchi. So as you draw, because your belt's on the outside of this, it collapses like that. And then as you go to reholster, what do most people do? They're gonna sit there, angle the gun inward towards their body to kind of open it up, and then reholster. That's horrible, because what did you just do? You just muzzled your own body with the muzzle of the firearm. The big thing is there's so many different holsters on the market, it gets confusing. Like here, this is one of my appendix carry holsters. You notice how it has this plastic thingy up over here. This is what we call a claw. I run a claw on all my firearms that I run appendix. What this claw does essentially is it goes behind my belt line and just pushes the handle of that pistol further into my body to help conceal it. Here I have a Bravo concealment holster. This is a 3 o'clock holster I use for my shield. Notice how it kind of is tapered so that it kind of is in line with my body. There's 2 clips on it to keep it tight against there. That's another one I like. Some firearms, it's just going to be really hard to find a holster for. It's the way it is. And then you can get a Uncle Mike's one size fit most, hot garbage. Here's another one a buddy gave me, where you actually Velcro it around the gun to kind of fit it for size. Does absolutely nothing to protect the trigger guard. That's hot garbage as well. You know, you can get away with leather stuff. The big thing is, does my firearm have a mechanical safety? Is it hard on both sides to kind of retain rigidity so nothing can get into that trigger? Once again, only with a mechanical safety on something like that. Now, this is actually a holster I kind of like. It's called the Stealth Operator. It is a multi-fit holster. It supposedly fits 150 firearms. The thing I like about it, it does fit most, but we'll notice here that single stack M&P shield, it fits and it actually protects the trigger quite well. I kind of like that. Now, if I go over here and grab my Glock and stick my Glock in there, I have that same retention and it protects the trigger. So all the holsters I've seen on the market, the Stealth Operator is probably by far the best for multi-fit and protecting that trigger. For those of you who like revolvers, they actually there's a lot of Kydex holsters out there for revolvers now. Usually it's going to be in the snub nose round. This one I found on Amazon for I think $8 something like that. The big thing with it, hey, I got that retention. It's hard. It protects the trigger. Do I have to run Kydex with a revolver? No, you don't, because just like running a double action, single action will make sure it's clear. That first press of that trigger is really, really heavy, right? Is something going to get in there and press it to that point? Probably not. Now, if we're in single action, we have it holstered, I could probably have a mouse fart and it's gonna send that hammer home. So these are just kind of some things to look at. There's a bunch of companies out there. The big thing is to try and figure out which position on your body you want to kind of carry, and then go from there. Typically, say 98% of the time I do carry appendix up front. The other 2%ish, I carry at 3 o'clock. It kind of depends what am I wearing for that day, which firearm am I going to use that day. And it's just different things kind of dictate contextually of what I'm going to carry that day and which position I'm going to carry that day. Hope that helped, and have a good day.